It's Wednesday, the 23rd of March. My name's Juan Brown. You're watching the Blanco Lirio channel, and an update on the China Eastern 737 flight 5735 that went down on Monday, 21 March. They found one of the data recorders on board this aircraft. According to Air Live here, it says they found the cockpit voice recorder. If we take a look at the video, it looks like they've got a data recorder in the baggie, a round data recorder, which I believe is the flight data recorder, not the cockpit voice recorder. Different manufacturers may have different shaped recording devices, but if we take a look over here at the NTSB site, here on the NTSB site, the cockpit voice recorder, again, there are different manufacturers and different shapes and sizes of these boxes, but often the cockpit voice recorder is the square orange box, and the flight data recorder has this cylindrical shape that we saw in that video there. The flight data recorder has about 25 hours worth of data, so it'll have the entire flight on there. The cockpit voice recorder, assuming it's a solid state recorder, as it's a late model 737, would have at least 2 hours of data on that. And both of these recorders are good for 3,400 Gs, so they can survive this type of impact. There's a good video from the NTSB tour of the flight data and cockpit voice recorder laboratories. Here she's opening up a data recorder. The chips are located on a board inside this crash-resistant material here.
So I've already...
Now this one's already been opened up.
This was involved in an incident. There was a type of material around here that we have to dig out to get to the actual unit.
This one's already been opened up and a lot of the material taken out of it, but there's the sandwich that the board is stored in.
Go ahead and take that off. There's a coating that's normally on top of the board. So in this case here, we've already removed the coating, and then we get to the actual memory board.
And there's the memory chips right there.
Chips on it that have the... There's requirements that allow the information to jump around as it's recorded. So if you lose one chip, you don't lose all of the airspeed data or all of the last 1 hour of the flight. So the information has to jump around. Some of these are just control chips and some of them are memory chips.
Again, this is just a demonstration of how a voice recorder or a data recorder is opened up at the NTSB. This is not the actual recorder from this accident aircraft. The data box from Flight 5735 has been sent to Beijing for investigation. When asked the NTSB yesterday about the makeup of this investigation, and they responded here on the tweet that the Chinese Civil Aviation Administration will be the head of the investigation, but there will be representatives from Boeing, the Federal Aviation Administration, and CFM, the engine manufacturer for this model of Boeing 737. They will be a party to this investigation. Over here on Flight Radar 24, they've done an article on the data for this particular flight. This is the actual aircraft involved, tail number 17901, with this paint job on it. Here's the overall data. Remember, they're at flight level, well, they're at 29,100 feet. Remember, in China, you fly in meters. So 8,900 meters is the flight level that they're assigned, and that equates to 29,100 feet. It's not until you get back into Hong Kong's airspace that you revert back to feet. So it can be rather confusing over there in China. So in mainland China, you fly in meters and talk in feet, and then once you get over to Hong Kong, you're back to feet. So what they've done in this article is broke down the final 150 seconds and looked closer at this data. And here you can see there was an attempted bit of recovery. There was a point in the flight briefly, very, very briefly, where the aircraft did level off, actually climbed a little bit. Now the data looks shallow in this graphical representation of just 150 seconds. But as you can see, when plotted over time and geography, it was a very steep descent rate. But right here, this little dip right here could have resulted in a very high G loading of the aircraft. They could have potentially overstressed the aircraft, and or despite the high ground speeds, possibly entered into an accelerated stall. Remember, you can stall an airplane at any attitude or airspeed, but only one critical angle of attack. So if you pull hard enough G's, put enough demand on the lift of that wing, you could potentially stall that wing. But we won't know until we get the data. But here it shows altitude heading down, leveling off briefly. Here's ground speed shown in yellow, nice and steady. This all up to this point here indicates to me that the autopilot is on. Then the airspeed decreases, then increases, and then begins decreasing. Again, that ground speed is going to decrease in this vertical descent as you're not covering across the ground as much as you are heading straight down. And this vertical speed, look at this, drops right down to 30,000 feet per minute, and then begins an attempt to recover. If somebody could do the math on the number of seconds for this recovery, they could probably figure out how many G's the aircraft was pulling. It does get up to a slight climb of 400, almost 1,000 feet per minute rate of climb from a 30,000 foot rate of descent, and then right back down to 30,000 foot rate of descent. So this is an important piece of data right here. What happened right at that point? And of course, why did this begin in the first place at all? According to this Twitter account on China Aviation Review, one of the two black boxes has been found. That's the round cylindrical one that we just talked about. Normal ATC communication before the crash. Weather was okay. Here they're claiming the captain had 6,709 hours. The first co-pilot had 31,769 hours. That's hard to believe. That's an incredible amount of time. It's hard to get that much time even at age 65, a lifetime of flying. The second co-pilot, 556 hours. Remember, the co-pilots can get trained up here in the United States and get into the right seat of a 737 with as little as 250 hours. So you can see some very low time co-pilots. All have good family relationship, according to this tweet from China Aviation Review. Now, in a very unprofessional attempt to try to get some of the ATC data, somebody has put music over the top of the ATC audio tapes. So if anybody can make anything out of this.
535广州叫你。110.35回家，收到了，请回答。在126.35帮忙再叫一下东方535，能不能叫出来？收到了126.35叫东方535，南方3.64。东方的535，东方的535上航92561.15叫。东方535上航92561.15叫。
So if somebody has a link to the ATC audio without any music over the top of it, it would be a tremendous help. And then finally, there's been some talk about this picture here. This picture is not that of the accident aircraft. This is a television screenshot from a television documentary on the Indian Silk Air 737 accident. This is not dealing with this accident. So it's much too early to speculate on what brought this aircraft down. It's clear that aircraft control was lost, but why it was lost is yet to be determined until we get the data. Thanks so much for your support. See you here.